Good morning. It's March 4th, and I'm reading on the news that big news that that they're using tear gas on the protesters in Libya, and I don't know. I guess in certain countries the government's supposed to just roll over and disappear, and anything an existing government, be it a dictatorship or a democracy or whatever, is just supposed to roll over and vanish because the people, quote, want their freedom. And God bless the people of Libya, and I wish them well. I wish everybody well. And obviously Gaddafi's a tough cookie who seized power, and Ronald Reagan basically responded to some of his actions by a raid many years ago, and probably took a lot of flack on that, but seems now's the time for all these countries to flex their muscles, the people, and yet when you flex your muscles in this country, such as the Tea Party, we hear all kinds of caustic comments, all kinds of nasty remarks about how mean-spirited these people are, and yet in other countries, bravo. I'm still very perplexed, perhaps I shouldn't be, about the disparity in terms of the way the news media reports about Iran, where they use far more draconian measures to deal with people. Of course, in China, that's not a problem, the way they deal with people. They have one of the Nobel Peace Prize winners in jail. But I guess there's certain things you don't talk about. You don't talk about the Federal Reserve, and things like that. You're not supposed to talk about. It's almost like that Archie Bunker show when he was talking about the mafia, and the mafia people came over and told him that there's no such thing as the mafia, so therefore you shouldn't talk about it. Anyhow, getting back to this tear gassing thing, this is like major news, but it wasn't major news when they were tear gassing people in Seattle during one of the economic conferences they had, World Economic Conferences in Seattle. And they also did it. I don't know if they used tear gas in Pittsburgh. I think they did. But they definitely used it in Seattle, because I know people who were getting their eyes tinged in the sidelines from the tear gas. Yet, from that standpoint, in order to promote the world financial people from taking over the world, those protesters, regardless of how extreme they got, seem to be gassed with tear gas, and it doesn't seem to be a problem at that point for them to be gassed. So when we do things over here, and I'm not saying, whoa, this is Jerry the cat. And so anyhow, I just find it kind of hypocritical that our media will talk about how a country like Libya, where the dictator is trying to stay in power. I mean, like, we're surprised that he wants to stay in power, and we're trying to appeal to his kinder, more gentle side. It kind of reminds me of I think it was Aquaman or Waterman with Kevin Costner, and who was that guy? Just recently died. Hooper. think it was who? Hopper, Dennis Hopper. And here he is, this tyrant with this group of pirates or whatever they are living on this freighter. And he said, okay, no more Mr. Nice Guy. All right? So, you know, we're somehow expecting some sort of philanthropy from Gaddafi, and yet in what should I say? When it comes to Egypt, there's no letting up a Mubarak that he basically didn't want to see bloodshed or what. I mean, Mubarak could have stayed in power and killed a lot of people. I mean, we lose more people in the United States from thugs running around in Detroit and Washington than they lost in Egypt. But that doesn't seem to be a problem. In fact, I think the death rate in Iraq is lower than in our major cities like Washington and Detroit. And you never hear of people saying, let's pull out of Detroit or Washington, D.C. So, any event, it's very interesting how we're manipulated by the media and these little nuances as to and spins on what happens in other countries. Like I said, Mubarak left with very little, I would say, collateral damage. The people now have a military regime which promises to hold some elections. So you have the Egyptian military, from whence Mubarak and even Sadat rose, and hopefully they will create some sort of democracy over there. You know, one has to question, you know, when you have the President of the United States trying to circumvent the Constitution every chance he gets, and he's not alone as far as the other presidents apparently have done it. But it's also interesting that as much as all the Democrats were moaning and groaning about the Patriot Act and how terrible it was, you know, no one's trying to reduce the powers per se now that or when the Democrats had total power to do that. So I think that the most important thing to remember is that we didn't get to where we are today by either the Democrats or the Republicans. We got here the way we are today from the lobbyists who have bought and paid for what they wanted. I mean, that has to be obvious to anybody there. I get a kick out of some of my friends who seem to think that all Republicans are baby beaters and, you know, want to starve old people and, you know, club seals, and that all the Democrats are just wonderful people. And yet, you know, when you look at the news about some of the things that some of the Democrats are arrested for, it's kind of interesting. When a Democrat does something in office, it's no big deal. When a Republican does something, they're held to this litmus test, which is you need to be a saint in order to survive the scrutiny or not be scrutinized by the left. But in any event, now you know, we're talking about civility, and yet all I see is you know, a lot of nasty things said about the Tea Party. And the Tea Party, all they're trying to do is have us kind of observe the U.S. Constitution, and for that, you know, they're Nazis or terrible people. So anyhow, I guess what do they say? You get the government you deserve, and apparently we don't deserve too much of the government, because I don't see them calling for cutbacks on their salaries, their benefits, and maybe their pension should be on a need basis. If they need the money, if they meet the criteria, like they're doing with Social Security, maybe we should revamp the whole structure of the pensions for our elected officials. I mean, do the Clintons really need a pension? I mean, do they? They have millions and millions and millions of dollars, and of course, they're always talking about having the rich pay their fair share. So why don't we look at the pensions and just say basically if you're above a certain income, you don't get a pension from the government. How about that? Okay. I guess I try to make my point on the tear gassing of the people in Libya who are trying to overthrow a government, be it a democracy or a dictatorship, and that's major news for some reason. And yet, when we tear gas our people here for lofty ideals and concerns, that's not a big deal. Okay, take care. Once again, spring is almost here. Start growing start your garden. At least get some spinach in a cold frame. Bye bye.